everybody, Trevor here, and it's time for another SpongeBob video. I was gonna work on my top 10 worst episodes next, but to pass the time quickly, I thought we should discuss my top 5 picks for my favorite SpongeBob characters. Before we begin, it's time for a little history lesson. SpongeBob SquarePants was originally created by the legendary American animator Stephen Hillenburg, who had a love for aquatics and a great sense of humor. The show itself first premiered on Nickelodeon back in 1999, and it was a phenomenal hit, and has been Nickelodeon's biggest cash cow since the Rugrats, which was another one of my favorite Nickelodeon shows. Unfortunately, Stephen Hillenburg passed away in 2018 due to ALS at a very young age. While it was very sad that he's no longer around anymore, he will always be missed and remembered fondly for his creation of the lovable sea sponge we know today. Oh, and did you know that SpongeBob was originally going to be called SpongeBoy, and that the show itself was originally going to be named SpongeBoy Ahoy? Yeah, SpongeBob sounds better than SpongeBoy in my honest opinion. Now for this list, I'm not going to include any minor characters, whether they be background characters or any of the live action ones. This is for the main characters only. So without wasting any more time, let's dive right in, shall we? Number 5 goes to both SpongeBob and Patrick. I decided to put these two together as number 5 for plenty of reasons. For one thing, they are the best of friends, just like Thomas and Percy from Thomas and Friends, as well as Woody and Buzz from Toy Story. In other words, they are an overall great duo despite their flaws. And that leads me to my second reason. They can sometimes be a bit annoying in some modern episodes, such as the season 7 episode, That Sinking Feeling, which I consider one of their most annoying roles in the entire show. But regardless, SpongeBob and Patrick are an iconic duo because of their friendship, humor, and that they're two of the main characters in the entire show. And I think both Tom Kenny and Bill Fagerbakke, whatever you pronounce his last name, are perfect voice actors for these two. Number 4 goes to Sandy Cheeks. When it comes to female supporting characters in the show, Sandy Cheeks will be the most interesting of the bunch because she's a land squirrel who came from Texas. She is great friends with SpongeBob, Patrick, Squidward, and all of their other friends in the Bikini Bottom, and is also very good at science, unlike me because I'm terrible at science as well as math. I know a lot of fans like to ship SpongeBob and Sandy as a couple, and I can totally see why, but personally, I always consider them to be just plain friends because Sandy's a land critter while SpongeBob is an underwater creature. I can even imagine someone doing a parody on YouTube where the characters reenact The Little Mermaid with SpongeBob as Ariel and Sandy as Eric. Now that would be hilarious. Now, the reason why she's number 4 is because while she is a good supporting protagonist overall, her most recent adventure on Netflix sucked because of the unfunny jokes, cheap CGI animation, and a weird human antagonist named Tsunami, who wants to turn the Bikini Bottom residents into cloned pets, which is such a stupid motivation in my opinion. I really don't see why they must rely on CGI animation nowadays when it comes to SpongeBob movies. Why can't they use 2D animation instead? Another reason why she's number 4 is that she's my favorite when it comes to land critters who come to Bikini Bottom, and that's something we don't see very often in the show. Sure, there was Kenny the Cat from season 9, and those 3 monkeys in Chimps Ahoy, but they're just minor characters. And those are all the reasons why Sandy Cheeks deserves the number 4 spot. Oh, and did you know that Sandy Cheeks' voice actress, Carolyn Lawrence, also voiced Cindy Vortex from Jimmy Neutron? Yeah, I can totally easily tell just by the sound of her voice. Number 3 is Mr. Krabs. Oh yeah, Mr. Krabs. How could I not forget this cheapskate of a character? While I do understand why some fans despise him even in modern episodes, but when it comes to internet memes, Mr. Krabs has some of the funniest ones yet. For instance, remember the More Krabs meme that was originally from Jellyfish Hunter? That one looked a bit creepy, but also hilarious at the same time. Another reason why he's number 3 is because he's basically the execs at Viacom and Nickelodeon in a nutshell when it comes to wanting more money, which does make perfect sense once you think about it. A third reason why he's number 3 is that while he is a cheapskate for the most part, he wasn't always like this. There were times when he can be a good father figure to his employees, especially SpongeBob. For instance, I like that he gives SpongeBob a second chance after getting fired for the first time in Karate Choppers. He can also give good advice occasionally, like in Squeaky Boots, where he tells SpongeBob that he doesn't really need those squeaky boots after all. And besides, I can totally see why Mr. Krabs was annoyed by them in the first place. So, all in all, even though Mr. Krabs is a money-hungry crustacean who manages the Krusty Krab, he can sometimes have a heart of gold and can be a great mentor to SpongeBob and his friends. Number 2 goes to Squidward Tentacles. This character, in my humble opinion, is one of the most sensible and sympathetic characters, for the most part. While yes, there was Little Yellow Book, which sucked, but if you look at the previous episodes like Band Geeks, he's a very relatable character with a grumpy attitude. I honestly think it's hilarious when he plays the clarinet horribly, and he's also a great artist too, unlike me of course, since most of my art is sloppy and rushed. A perfect example of his sympathy would be in Band Geeks, where he was trying to teach the citizens of Bikini Bottom how to be a great band, only for it to go horribly wrong later in the episode. And to cheer Squidward up, SpongeBob decides to teach the band properly, like how Squidward wanted. And wouldn't you know it, it came out very successful for Squidward in the end, which makes Band Geeks my most favorite episode of all time. So, in conclusion, because Squidward was sensible, mature, and sympathetic, he deserves the number 2 spot. He may not be the best clarinet player, but he's definitely one of the best supporting characters in the entire show. Now, before I get to my number 1 pick, I just want to give a few honorable mentions. Gary. As much as I like this snail character, the reason he didn't make it was because my biggest gripe with him is that most of his episodes revolve around the same exact formula where he was completely misunderstood. Case in point, A Pal for Gary, which I'll get more into in the next video. Spoilers. Pearl. She got beat up by Sandy due to her sassy teenage behavior, and that she cries too much, just like Jimmy from Ed and Nettie. Mrs. Puff. She would have been number 3 because I find Mr. Krabs to be the most memorable of SpongeBob's mentors. Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy. As much as I love these two characters, they've already got beaten out by SpongeBob and Patrick as number 5, since they are the most iconic duo in the entire cartoon. And my number 1 most favorite SpongeBob character of all time is Plankton. I decided to put this guy as number 1 because most modern episodes centering around him are more interesting than the rest of the characters, even though Squidward comes at a close second. What I mean is, while he is one of the main villains of the show, he can be sympathetic at times. For instance, while I did feel bad for him in One Course Meal, which was one of the worst episodes of the entire show, and I'll get into more of that in another video, where he was tormented and harassed by Pearl, who is actually Mr. Krabs in disguise for some stupid reason. But Plankton had other greater and much better episodes such as The Algae is Always Greener and Plankton's Pet, both of which I've already discussed last time. A perfect example of a funny moment was when Plankton decides to switch lives with Mr. Krabs. During the process, he screams through this wormhole background for a while until he decides to take a soda break in the middle of it all, which makes this scene one of the most hilarious moments yet. Another perfect example of a sympathetic moment besides One Course Meal was one time in Plankton's Pet, Spot has gone missing and he needs SpongeBob's help in finding the lost pet. And like I said in the last video, it's very nice for Plankton to have a new companion for once in his life because he deserves it, and it just goes to show you that Plankton isn't always evil. And because of these reasons alone, Plankton deserves the number 1 spot as my most favorite SpongeBob character of all time. Now let me know in the comment section below on which SpongeBob characters are your favorite. Do you agree with my list, or do you have your own personal preference? Oh, and happy belated heavenly birthday to Stephen Hillenburg. Sorry that I didn't make a post about this sooner. I just forgot his birthday was a few days ago. Still, he will always be missed and remembered fondly for his creation of SpongeBob SquarePants. I bet he was a really nice guy in real life, unlike some people at Nickelodeon. Join me next time where I'll be talking about my top 10 least favorite episodes of SpongeBob. And boy oh boy, it'll be a long, hard ride. This is Trevor Davis signing off, and I'll see you all again in the next video.